Hi guys, I picked up this little plane. It's a little block plane. I don't know anything about it. It came in a box of junk. You can see it's rusty, it's locked up, kind of rough shape. I don't know a lot about planes. I'm not a woodworker, really. Uh, but size-wise, I don't have any planes that are this size. It's complete, so I thought it would be worth fixing up. As we look underneath it here, you can see it says made in USA, so I guess that doesn't really mean anything other than it's got to be halfway decent, I suppose. So anyway, we're gonna tear it down and just clean it up, tune it up a little bit, and we'll see if we can make it produce some shavings. I watched some videos. I've watched a few actually on restoring planes. The best is, in my opinion, if you ever watch another YouTuber, Paul Sellers. The guy is incredible. He does videos on virtually everything that involves woodworking with old hand tools, and he gives some pretty good tutorial on how to tune up a plane and how to restore a rusty plane. It's just a functional aspect. He doesn't worry too much about painting them up and making them look pretty. You can see here, I went ahead and sandblasted the body of this. It's going to have some sanding too. This is where I discover that it is a Dunlap, which I guess is not a great brand of plane, not real desirable. But for my purposes, it's probably going to be fine. You can see the sole of the plane. It's rusty and it probably has some high spots, low spots. So I lap it a little here, and there's a lot of varying opinions on how smooth you have to get it, if it has to be perfectly flattened. A little plane like this probably doesn't matter, but you can see it's pretty far out here. That's too far out for me, I guess. I'm going to try and get it fairly smooth. And I do all my sanding. I don't have a fancy block, but I've got a real heavy piece of tempered plate glass, and I've been using it for years now. So I just put varying grits and then sand it. You can see we're making some progress here, and eventually we get it pretty smooth. You can see there's a little bit of a hollow in the center there. I just don't think that's enough that it's going to cause me any major problems. I end up just buffing it a little more, but uh, you know, that sandblasting puts a very rough texture to it, and you can see this has some severe pitting too. I don't want to sand this too heavy because I don't want to sand that Dunlap, the maker's mark, out of it, but I'd sand it a little bit just to clean it up. We'll do the same thing with the plane iron here. Uh, it's pretty rusty, but it's flat to begin with, so it just doesn't take much to get it brought back. They make nice little jigs like this that'll hold your plane irons. You can get them that'll hold your chisels too, and then you can put a really consistent edge on your blade. There's measurements, so if you know what angle you want, it's easy to set it and keep it there. And so I take a few passes on some pretty rough paper, and then we can kind of see how far out it is. You can see the angle is a little different than the edge that was on there. But anyway, so we'll work it progressively through these grits and see if we can get it fairly sharp. There must be 1,000 videos on how to sharpen, and I'm not trying to say this is the best way, and I don't include every step. I just show you a little along the way as we get her cleaned up. So now that we're getting a little bit of an edge on it, I've flattened the back just a little bit. We'll go to the strop, and all this is a piece of leather that's just glued to a piece of hardwood. My paper I go down to about 1,000 grit or so, and then you can get different coarsenesses of compound. But anyway, you get a little compound on the leather, and you go over that a little bit, and that really puts a nice edge on it. It'll get it generally sharp enough for the stuff that I do. So then we'll just give it the really rough test of will it shave some arm hair. It definitely is fairly sharp, and usually if it's shaving sharp, then it's good enough for what I'm gonna do with it. So yep, that is sharp enough. So I hope this isn't too cringeworthy for people watching, but that's kind of how I test it. I go ahead and just dress these edges a little bit with a file just to take a sharp edge off. I'm not trying to do any real shaping, just making it so there aren't any real sharp corners on there. This is kind of an interesting bolt because it's got 2 different thread sizes on the same bolt, and it's the adjuster for the plane iron. And it's part of the adjustment mechanism. The nickel plating on this thing was bad, and I didn't want to replate it, so all I do is I sand it down, and then I buff it real good, and we'll just get it as shiny as we can, and that'll be pretty nice. And a little coat of oil, it's not going to rust anyway. And this is just to give it a real light buffing, shine it up. Everything I do, I like to shoot a coat of paint on it. No functional purpose, but if I have to look at it, I want it to look nice. So anyway, I paint this, and then I shoot some gray on the other parts. Alright, I use this paste wax on about everything. It does a really nice job. So this guy turned out pretty good. Throw a coat of wax on the bottom of it. And on the sides too. Okay. So I'm happy with how it turned out. It looks good. I guess the real question is, functionally, how does it do? So we'll do a little test run, and we'll see what we've got here. Let's take just a little narrower cut on it. Let's see how fine we can go. That's pretty thin. I mean, it's clean. Let's take a little less. You know, for the kind of work I do, that's pretty good. So like I said before, you know, not being much of a woodworker, it seems like these are pretty thin little shavings. I'm happy with how this is working. So I think it'll be a serviceable tool. I'll definitely get some use out of it. If anyone has any tips or suggestions of what I'm doing wrong or how I could do it better, let me know. But I'm happy with it, and I think it was worth the time. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.